warned by the body politic. They are somehow less than bare life. They are the embodiment of the living dead. So politics has worked diligently to position itself as a human construct. However, as I've talked about, biopolitics as a political system relies on animals as its target. It's this targeting of animals insists upon a rethinking of animals as non-political beings. Their lives are necessary for biopolitics to function, therefore they are definitely political in this respect. The shelter is a state of exception wherein life is reduced to biological existence, regulated through the body, and death becomes inevitable. Biopolitics helps expose the fallacy of the animal shelter, just as animal shelters expose the danger of biopolitics turned necropolitical. The shelter culminates in the giving up of the animal to death. This leads to the inevitable view of animals within the shelter as discarded bodies and waiting, as somehow like objects of necropolitics now. So biopolitics as a system attacks the animal, and as Coetzee writes, this is the only life there is, that which we share with animals. And that's it.
Attached to a particular dog and
right.
doesn't save that dog's life. And we think reading the novel that he's going to, and then he doesn't. And what kind of moral message do you think that Coetzee is trying to convey with that scene, if any?
I don't know. I think he would, and this is all subjective, right? Because we're all reading literature and we're interpreting it in different ways. But how I read that scene was he wanted to save the dog, right? And doesn't he put off bringing, or no, he doesn't. Bev asks him if he wants to wait until tomorrow to bring this dog that he's grown attached to, yeah. And he's like, no, let's just do it now. Like he goes and gets them, they administer the drugs, and he dies. So maybe he's trying to get at, like, how do we get out of this system? He knows the dogs come there to die. Like if he saves them for one other day, like what does that really do? You know what I mean?
And just this one.
Yeah, and it would just be this one dog. So yeah, I think it's really getting into the conflict of how shelters function, particularly like how they function in rural South Africa. I'm not an expert on that, but I would assume there's a lot of like post-apartheid stuff that goes into that. So yeah.
How do you feel about sterilizing animals as like a reduce the amount of
Yeah, I think this is sort of a slippery slope. So I used to do grant writing for a no-kill shelter back in Oregon, which is where I lived. I lived in Portland. And so they enacted this TNR trap, neuter, return program for feral cats. So what they would do is they would trap them, like bring them in, sterilize them, and then like release them back into the wild. I mean, it's the city, and then like release them back. So they wouldn't keep